Come all of you, come all of us, bless the one who blesses. Come all of you, come all of us, bless the one who blesses. Do 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 do
Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
Shabbat Shalom.
And Shabbat Shalom to everyone who is watching from home. I know we have a lot of folks who are sitting at home tonight and joining us that way. So if you're virtual, if you're here in the seats, whatever brings you here, I hope that you find what it is you're looking for tonight. We come together on Shabbat for so many things. So sometimes we're here because we are honoring a loss in our lives. Sometimes we're here because we are celebrating. Oh, we're having a little static here, my friends.
Might be mine.
Okay. It's been a while since we did this, so give some moments. What do you think?
Test.
Okay,
good.
I like it. Excellent. If it keeps doing that, it just means you'll have to sing super loud so you can sing over any static. So this is the first time that I have been here and had many of us unmasked. It is lovely to see so many of your faces again. However, the thing about seeing your faces means I can tell if you're singing or not. So I hope that you will sing along. Otherwise, we have more masks in the back and you can try and trick me. But we're going to start by welcoming each other together on page 10 with the words of Hine Matov. Hine Matov umanayim shevet achim gam yachad. Hine Matov umanayim shevet achim gam yachad. Hine matov umanayim shevet achim gam yachad. Hine matov umanayim shevet gam yachad.
God prepare me.
Oh God, prepare me to be a sanctuary, pure and holy, tried and true. And with thanksgiving, I'll be a living sanctuary for you.
Hine matov.
Hine matov umanayim shevet achim gam yachad. Hine matov umanayim shevet achim gam yachad. So tomorrow morning on this bima, Alexander Gao is going to become a bar mitzvah, and I have to tell you that he has this Torah portion that is famous, actually I would say infamous, for B'nai Mitzvah students in every generation because he has got the leprosy Torah portion. But he's going to be amazing. So feel free to come back or tune in tomorrow. But in the meantime, we are going to celebrate him and honor him tonight by inviting him and Michael and Olga and Anna up to help us light our Shabbat candles and say Kiddush and all those good things which can be found in your Siddur starting on page 2. It took Jonah 2 years to figure out how to do it, and he was here every week, so do not. Perfect. So take a few moments and say, Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu lahadlik ner shel Shabbat. Sorry, Alexander, if you want to lift up the Kiddush cup. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. You can take a sip if you want to. It's just juice. Awesome. All right, Anna, will you unwrap? What's right there? That's the challah. Will you unwrap it? Beautiful. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen. Now, it's not official unless someone takes a bite of it. It's pretty good. Yes. Awesome. All right. So now Shabbat has started because we tried the challah. Thank you. You guys did a beautiful job. So just a few weeks ago, Rabbi Michael and I were in Tzfat with our family. And one of the most beautiful things about Tzfat is this is where so many of our most sacred pieces of Jewish liturgy come from. And one of them can be found on page 20. This is a prayer that the mystics wrote in Tzfat in the late medieval period, you could say. And it was just this idea of trying to understand what life can be like when tragedy has befallen us. Because the mystics in Tzfat, they were there after they'd been exiled from their homelands. They had so much to be sorrowful about, but instead they said, what if we could find the joy instead? And so one of them wrote this prayer, Lecha Dodi, trying to find a little bit of joy each week in welcoming in Shabbat, this sacred time, imagining maybe she was a bride welcoming into our midst. Lecha Dodi, page 20.
Lecha Dodi,
Lecha Dodi,
Likrat Kala,
Likrat Kala,
B'nei Shabbat,
B'nei Shabbat,
Lekabela,
Nekabala,
Lecha Dodi,
Lecha Dodi,
Likrat Kala,
Likrat Kala,
B'nei Shabbat,
B'nei Shabbat,
Lekabela,
Nekabala, Shamor v'zachor b'diburecha, Ishmianu el hamiuchad Adonai, echad u'shemo echad, l'shem u'tiferet v'litila.
Lecha Dodi,
Lecha Dodi,
Likrat Kala,
Likrat Kala,
B'nei Shabbat,
B'nei Shabbat,
Lekabela,
Nekabala,
Lecha Dodi,
Lecha Dodi,
Likrat Kala,
Likrat Kala,
B'nei Shabbat,
B'nei Shabbat,
Nekabela,
Nekabala.
Moi v'shalom, Ateret ba'ala, Gam b'simcha otzola, Toch amnei am segula, Bo'echala, Bo'echala, Bo'echala. Lecha Dodi,
Lecha Dodi,
Likrat Kala,
Likrat Kala,
B'nei Shabbat,
B'nei Shabbat,
Nekabela,
Nekabala,
Lecha Dodi,
Lecha Dodi,
Likrat Kala,
Likrat Kala,
B'nei Shabbat,
B'nei Shabbat,
Nekabela,
Nekabala,
Lecha Dodi,
Lecha Dodi,
Lecha Dodi,
Lecha Dodi.
Lecha Dodi.
In the bottom of 27, it reads, entrances to holiness are everywhere. The possibility of ascent is all the time, even at unlikely times and through unlikely places. There is no place on earth without the presence. And so seeking to find that presence, seeking to find God wherever God may be, we join together and rise on page 28 in the call to worship. On 31, this is an hour of change. Within it we stand uncertain on the border of light. Shall we draw back or cross over? Where shall our hearts turn? Shall we draw back, my brother, my sister, or cross over? This is the hour of change, and within it we stand quietly on the border of light. What lies before us? Shall we draw back, my brother, my sister, or cross over? Baruch atah Adonai, hama'ariv aravim. Please join me on the top of 33. As you taught Torah to those whose names I bear, teach me Torah too. Its mystery beckons, yet I struggle with its truth. You meant Torah for me. Did you mean the struggle for me too? Don't let me struggle alone. Help me to understand, to be wise, to listen, to know. Lead me into the mystery. Baruch atah Adonai, Ohev Amo Yisrael. Join us Shema on 34.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Le'olam Va'ed.
Please be seated. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavcha u'b'chol nafshecha u'b'chol me'odecha v'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavecha hayom al levavecha Vishinantam levanecha, v'dibarta ba'am, v'shivtecha b'veitecha, uvlechtecha v'derech, uvshokpecha uvkumecha, uvshartam le'ot al yadecha, v'hayu latotafot beinenecha, uchtatam, המזוזות ביתך ובשעריך למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם אלוהים, Ani Adonai Elohechem. And 41, sing the song of men and women joined in understanding and respect, the song of God's miracles, an earth protected and cherished, a gift for our children and the generations to come, the song of a land once ravished by war, now quiet and content, her soldiers home to leave no more, the song of a world redeemed, the song of peace.
Micha mocha ba'elim Adonai. Micha mocha nedor b'kodesh nora tehilot o sefele nora tehilot o sefele micha mocha ba'elim Adonai. Micha mocha nedor b'kodesh.
Earlier this week, I was teaching in the Intro to Judaism class, and we were talking about sort of where all of these prayers come from. And on the bottom of 42, you can see this little note that says that the readings on this page, it started with a man whose name was Rav Amram, who wrote really the first prayer book we have. And over the years, things have changed, but really not very much. Just like Rav Amram, we still ask God that each night when we go to bed, we pray that God helps us to lie down in peace and love and to raise us up again in the morning, life renewed. So this version of Rav Amram's prayer, we're going to do a few of the lines on the left, a few of the lines on the right, and then all come together in a beautiful harmony. So we sing Let There Be Love and Hashkivenu.
Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be your shelter from life's storms. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be your shelter from life's storms. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu Hashkivenu B'Shalom Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu Hashkivenu B'Shalom V'hamidenu Shomreinu L'chaim Ufros Aleinu Sukkot Shlomecha. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Be our shelter from life's storms. Be our shelter from life's storms.
On page 47, Prayer invites God's presence to suffuse our spirits, God's will to prevail in our lives. Prayer may not bring water to parched fields, nor mend a broken bridge, nor rebuild a ruined city, but prayer can water an arid soul, mend a broken heart, rebuild a weakened will. We join together in tefillah, or prayer, on page 46, and I ask you to please rise. Adonai sefatai tiftach ufi yagita hilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu v'Elohei avotenu v'imotenu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, V'Konei Hakol, V'Zocher Chasdei Avot v'Imahot, U'Mevii Geula Livnei V'neihem, V'Ma'an Shemo Ba'ahava, Melech Ozer U'Moshia U'Magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham V'Ezrat Sarah, Atah Gibor Le'olam Adonai, Mechayei HaKol atah Rav Lehoshia, Mechakel Chayim B'Chesed, Mechayei HaKol B'Rachamim Rabim, Somech Noflim V'Ofech Olim, Umatir Asurim, Umekayem Emunato, Lishenei Afar, Micha Mocha Ba'al Gevurot, Umido Melach, Melech Mimit Umechaye, Umatzmiach Yeshua, V'ne'eman atah lehachayot hachon, Baruch atah Adonai, Mechayei hakol. Please be seated. On page 55, may these hours of rest and renewal open our hearts to joy and our minds to truth. May all who struggle find rest on this day. May all who suffer find solace. May all who hurt find healing on this day. May all who despair find purpose. May all who hunger find fulfillment on this day. May this day fulfill its promise. Baruch atah Adonai, Mekadesh HaShabbat. We pray for all of those who are suffering and all of those who are hurting. And that leads us to this next prayer in our service on page 253. And this is the Misha Barath. And when we offer the Misha Barath, we think of all of those people in our lives and our families, anyone who is in need of some kind of healing or wholeness. So if there's someone that you're thinking of at this time who you know could use our healing prayers and who you think might like for us to be sharing their name, I would invite you to do so at this time. So we're thinking too tonight of Matt. We're thinking of Arlene Alper. We're thinking of Aubrey McLean and Drew, of Beverly Garber and Ellie Lefton, of Lacey Weinstein. Happy birthday. We're still praying for you. For all of those names too that it's just too hard to say, we sing a Misha Barath on page 253.
Misha Barath Avotenu Mikol HaBracha Leimotenu. May the source of strength who bless the ones before us and let us say, Amen. Misha Barath, imortenu, mekol habracha, leavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen. והגיון ליבי לפניך, יהיו לי רצון אמרי פי, והגיון ליבי לפניך. אדוני צורי, אדוני צורי, אדוני צורי וגואלי, אדוני צורי, אדוני צורי, אדוני
So next Friday night, we will not be here for services. It's really the only Friday night all year long, and actually it doesn't happen every year. It really only happens every couple years. This is the one Friday night that we don't have services because next Friday night is Passover. Don't worry if you haven't started shopping yet. The Passover the Schnucks right on our corner here still has like so many Passover items, so you're totally fine. But because it's almost Passover, that means that I have spent really most of the last week or two talking to people about Passover. And every year, no matter what, I'm always asked the same question. Would we still be able, actually I asked a lot of the same questions, but the question I'm talking about tonight has nothing to do with kidney oats and rice or anything like that. The question or what I talk about tonight is the idea of, if we were to find out that the Exodus never happened, would we still celebrate Passover? And I'm asked this every year, and every year I answer basically the exact same way. I say, number one, probably didn't happen, and number two, it really doesn't matter. I say it probably didn't happen because really there is like no historical proof to even suggest that something even close to the Exodus happened. Yes, we think maybe the Israelites were in Egypt, but none of the stuff that happened in the Torah, there's really no proof about the Exodus having happened. And maybe more importantly, I don't think it should matter, because the story of the Exodus is so important because it's the story of freedom. It's a story that helps us know who we are as a Jewish people. We are the people who understand that being a slave is not good, and we want to be able to help other people find freedom and justice just as we did. So I answer the same way pretty much every year, but this year, I found myself answering, and then I had this moment, I don't know if you've ever had this before, where I said something, and then immediately it was like I could see myself in a video and rewind, and I thought, did I say that? And should I have said that just like that? Because I realize that maybe when I say those kind of things, people take it the wrong way. So let me just offer an explanation here and say it does matter. Okay, truth matters. Knowing whether or not something is fact or fiction or something in between, these things matter in our lives. And we certainly have seen it so much in our own country in these past few years, and we've even seen it in the news in these past few weeks. I mean, if you look at these terrifying pictures coming out of Ukraine, and then you hear people saying, no, that isn't really happening. And if you look at even what's happening in Shanghai, right? And they're like, no, nothing's happening in Shanghai, right? Truth matters. We should know actually what the facts are, especially when it comes down to things like how people's health is and whether people are living or dying or what's happening in our government and our country. In those cases, truth definitely, positively always matters. But there are times when maybe truth and facts are not the most important thing. When sometimes, if we are talking about our sacred history, or even the histories of our family, sometimes it's not so much the truth or the facts that matter so much, but it's all about the kavanah. You've heard me talk about kavanah before. We've talked about it for the past few high holidays at least, but also from this bima. What kavanah means is intention. It's not so much about the facts of what you're doing, the words of what you're doing, it's what is the intention behind them. And we hear this more often than not when we talk about Jewish prayer, right? The rabbis in our sacred tradition, they would say that, yes, it should matter that you know the words that you're saying, but if you say these words on the prayer, even in perfect Hebrew, if you don't have the right intention, if you don't mean what they say, then they don't matter at all. You may as well be saying, bibbidi bobbidi boo. It doesn't mean anything unless there's intention behind it. And the same is true with our sacred stories. If you think about something like Abraham and Isaac, which we read every single year, the story about Abraham almost sacrificing his son Isaac, that story is not really about child sacrifice and whether or not it actually happened in ancient Israel. It did, but that's a story for another time. It's not actually about child sacrifice. It's about what it means to be a person of faith. And when we read the story of Jacob's ladder and the angels going up and down from heaven, it's not really a story about the facts of whether or not angels exist. It's about the idea that there could be holiness around us all the time, and you might not even realize it. That's the kavanah of it. And so when we tell the story of the Exodus, it's not supposed to be about the facts. It's not supposed to prove if Pharaoh was a good guy or a bad guy, or how many Israelite slaves there may or may not have been, or frankly, even if the Jewish people knew what it was like to be slaves, that is not what matters. What matters is the kavanah, the intention of that story, which says to each of us, we should spend our lives working for freedom and working to help people be free and be safe and live in justice all around the world. It's the kavanah, the intention of the story that matters. And I think that this is true not just in our sacred stories, but even in the sacred stories of our own families and the people we love. I've been thinking about that a lot these past few weeks because it has been it's been a terrible few years, but it's been a really awful few weeks for this congregation. And I know for so many of you who are watching from home, I know that this has been the worst time. But one of the things that we do in Judaism that is so remarkable is when we are at our lowest point, when we are at this time, when we are at our worst and we have lost someone, what our tradition tells us to do is to sit around and share stories. We share stories when you meet with a rabbi, we share stories from the bima, we share stories by the graveside, we share stories at Shiva. We tell all of these stories about the people we love. And when we do that, it doesn't matter if they're totally factually true. You can tell a story about the person you love, and you can say he once caught a fish this big, and it is okay. Because when we're remembering the people we love, it's not about the facts. It's about the kavanah of how we remember them and the way we're passing on what matters most about these people that we love. This is especially important when we think about passing on what it was the people we loved, what it was that they're bringing to the next generation. When we look at children who are named after them, when we think about the traditions that we are passing on from them, we do this with kavanah. Maybe the stories were not exactly factually true. Maybe she didn't really make the best commish bread ever. Maybe sometimes her matzo balls were a little bit hard. That's okay. Those are not the stories that we need to share. It's about the kavanah and the ways that we remember these people that meant so much to us. There are times when we need the facts. But when it comes to the sacred stories of our people and the sacred stories of the people we love, it's the kavanah that counts. And so as we move into this next week of Passover, I know that for so many of us, we will be looking around that Seder table and there will be empty seats. And what I encourage you to do is to take those moments, and as we share the stories of our people, and as we share the stories of our people, the people we loved whose seats are empty, may we remember to do so with kavanah, with love, and with honor. And in that way, their stories and their blessings and their presence will always be with us. So I invite you now, if you will, to please turn back to your prayer books again on page 282 and rise, and we'll join together in the words of the Aleinu.
Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונו, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו
On the top of 291, it is hard to sing of oneness when our world is not complete, when those who once brought wholeness to our life have gone, and naught but memory can fill the emptiness their passing leaves behind. But memory can tell us only what we were in company with those we loved. It cannot help us find what each of us alone must now become. Yet no one is really alone. Those who live no more echo still within our hearts and words, and what they did is part of what we have become. We do best homage to our dead when we live our lives more fully, even in the shadow of our loss, for each of our lives is worth the life of the whole world, and each one is the breath of the ultimate one. In affirming the one, we affirm the worth of each one whose life now ended brought us closer to the source of life, in whose unity no one is alone, and every life finds purpose. And so we recall with love the names of those taken from us in recent days, and our hearts go out to their families in sympathy as we recall their names: Sam Barker, Rebecca Beldner, Jerry Krause, Michael Neidorf, Robbie Spetner. And we now recall the names of those, the anniversary of whose death occurs on this Shabbat, and whose names have been archived in our congregation or on the wall of honor for perpetual memorial: Ben Berger, Ruth Berry, Hubert Binowitz, Mernadine Bunny Bloom, Dora Severs Brown, Samuel Brown, Shmuel Buchman, Dr. Norman Chasen, Daniel Cohen, Arnold Harvey Cole, Ethel Dubinsky, William Engel, Joseph Epstein, Michael Fadum, Sarah Lassie Zar Frager, Carol Frank, Rose Fuchs, Jack Gelfenbaum, Eugene Goldberg, Helen Levin Goldman, Gloria Mintz Goldstein, Jane Bender Goodman, Max Heen, Marvin Buddy Jacobs, Fred Kling, Stella Wiener Kriegshaber, Herbert Leuchter, Abraham Adolf Levi, Rosalie Levi, Matilda Levy, Pauline Levy, Saul Lowenstein, Jacob Lauterbach, Norma Ludmer, Audrey Morgenstern, Catherine Klein Nathan, Helen Joan Rovac, Rosalind Rovac, Louis Rosenblum, Charles Rubenstein, Abraham Lewis Shapiro, Herbert Shermer, Murray Schneider, Annette Schoenberg, Alan Schreier, Samuel Schuchat, Bernadine Silverman, Joseph Silverstein, Ben Spasser, Pearl Stoller, Fanny Tannenbaum, Milton Tucker, Officer Alvin Bernard Wanton, who died in the service of our country, Morris Wax, Sabina Scher Weissman, Carolyn Corinne Wildman, Charlotte Wolfe. So those and the names we keep in our hearts, we join together in the words of the Mourner's Kaddish on page 294. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, ba'alma divrach hirutei v'yamlich machotei, b'chayachon uvyomechon uv'chayei dechol beit Yisrael, ba'agala uv'izman kariv emru amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevarach ba'alam omei almaya, Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitale v'yitalal shmei dekudisha b'richu, la'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbachata v'nechamata, da'amiran ba'alma v'emru amen. Yehei shlama Rabbah min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, v'emru amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav, Hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, ve'emru amen. May the source of peace and peace to all who mourn and comfort to all who are bereaved. And we say, Amen.
Oseh shalom b'mromav, Hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'imeru amen.
So a few last words before our closing song. Again, we won't be having Shabbat services next week. If you don't have a Seder to go to yet and you are still looking, please let me know. You can talk to me tonight or send me an email and I will see if I can find you a fantastic Passover host. We also have our Women's Seder that is the Thursday night of Passover, and I think you can probably tell Martina and we can still get you a seat to that. Beyond that, please check out our calendar. We've got all sorts of learning things coming up. And last but not least, thank you, Rob Aronson, for your beautiful music. And we're going to do one final song. It's not really a newie. We've done this before, right? A while back, but it's an echo song. So if you don't remember it, you sing the echo.
When we sing,
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 we pray twice.
When we sing,
When we sing,
we sing, we are one.
we sing, we are one.
Shiru Ladonai, 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 Shiru when we sing, Shiru Ladonai, 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 Shiru Ladonai. When we sing, when we sing, we are one. We are one.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone, and Chag Pesach Sameach.
I like your adventure. I'm glad to hear that. Yeah, thanks for coming. Everything's going well. We're all healthy. Everyone's 17 months old. Yes, got my hands. In a good way. In a very good way. Yeah. Oh. I don't think so. Hi, I'm Rob. Nice to meet you. I've known your parents for a while. Yeah. Yeah, I know. Time just keeps on going. Well, I look at pictures of your kids, that's how I know. Yeah, they do. They keep growing. That's right. Very much so. Someone's got to be with them. Yes, it really has. It's all really good. Well, I'm sorry. I was on a team that saw things there and down there. Yeah, we had a good time. Yeah, I know. And there are lots of people living going through that I have not seen. Yeah. Well, hopefully you'll be able to see more and more. Yeah. Get better. Oh, yeah. No, I was just very proud for different things. We actually had a lot of travel. Good travel. Yeah. For the third year in a row, I've been before my recent deal, I have served it as the Chicago Public Meeting. Oh my God. Awesome. That was again just like, as long as you take Jeremy while I'm here, I'm good. Yeah. Exactly. That's great. And then they get, of course, the tourist. It's still right. One of those things. Yeah, it's kind of like fell into it. And then our daughter.
Just gonna quickly
Go ahead.
No.
We're taking up one out. I don't know what that's like at all. Hopefully. You can't go too far yet. Right. hey, you know, this is the man for, well, it's not like my, you know, my favorite to be like,